One, Jamie!
Oh my goodness.
It has been a long journey, folks, and we have met so many obstacles.
With Janner's lines, I've been like saying them out loud and seeing how it felt.
I can't understand the cast.
I saw the drawing and thought, that's me.
I have two older brothers, and I'm the youngest girl.
You know, to be part of a project where it lines up.
I'm sure he's capable of giving me a good run for my money.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Wow, what's up, AP? I'm Chris Paul.
That video,
and this is Andrew.
that video just got me all. I'm already feeling emotional. I'm sorry, I'm such a crybaby. It's good to see you, Chris Wall.
Man. Hey man, good to see you. So Andrew is off in Cambridge. He's been doing some speaking and some writing.
Oxford.
Oxford. Oh my gosh, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
Right out the gate. Oxford.
Big rival.
Sorry, yeah, and I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, if you don't know us, I'm Chris Wall, producer of the Wingfeather Saga animated series. Andrew's the author of the books and executive producer as well. We're so glad to have some of you on here joining for the first time. It's good to see you. We have been on a journey, as you saw from that video, over the last year that's been amazing. Getting a chance to tell this great book series here and turned into an animated series. We have a lot that we want to show you today. So you've tuned in at the right time. We have a lot of big announcements. But, you know, right out the gate, Andrew, they keep asking, when does all the work that wonderful team has been working on get to be shown to the world? And so today we get to tell everybody when that first episode premieres. So should we count it down to a graphic here? We're going to show you guys this. Ready? Here we go. So I'll count it down in 3, 2, 1. There it is.
Hey! December
Chapter
2nd.
1.
So fun.
December 2nd, Lily and the Dragon Song. It's so
Okay,
good.
that's free. That is not very long from now. That's going to come so fast.
I know. When we were talking about this, like we were talking about this in July, I was like, oh yeah. But now that it's August, there's this tip over of like, oh, we're headed. It's the fall.
Yeah, it's happening.
School started now. Yeah. So anyways, guys, we are so excited. Our crew could not be more excited about getting to show you what we've been working on. We're going to tease out the rest of the release schedule for the 6 episodes to release in 2023, 24. I'm kidding. They'll release in a cadence every couple of weeks, and we'll have those teased out here over the next few weeks. But you can expect that one December 2nd, and can't wait. A couple of the things coming up in this live stream, let me just kind of tease you real quickly. So we've got some special guests, Jordan Harmon from Angel Studios, Kyle Mann, you guys may know him from Babylon Bee. We've got some info about our other dates that we're looking at for season 2. And then we have today our official teaser trailer that we can't wait to show you. So you want to stay tuned for that. We're going to show that here in a little bit. And it's pretty awesome. So
It's so awesome.
If you've not kept up with us in our live streams, over on our Wingfeather Saga YouTube channel, you can find it. So youtube.com, it's weird, /C/the Wingfeather Saga. There it is. Go to that channel and you can find all of our other live streams. Some of the things you may have missed is a really cool behind the scenes look at our animation process, a reveal of our whole cast. We have this amazing cast that has been a part of the series that we want to show that. So we had that as part of live stream, and now it's a separate video out there. You can watch that. Lots of cool stuff. So definitely go out there. We're going to talk to you more and more about YouTube because, Andrew, one of the questions people have asked is, I'm sure you get it all the time, where do we get to see the show? Where do I see it? And the simple answer is YouTube. So YouTube will do live streams like this, and the episode will premiere there. Eventually, we're going to start moving people over to the Angel Studios app, both on your TV and mobile. But for now, we're going to make sure we can get it to where you can find it easily. And so that's the easiest way. So if you want to learn, you want to really follow closely with all of our news, go to YouTube, find the Wingfeather Saga channel, and be sure to subscribe and hit those notification bells so that when we do post something, you'll get a little ping that says, hey, there's new stuff. And so we don't get lost in there. So that's what's happening over there. Nashville is going to be the location of our premiere. November 16th. We're so excited. We're going to premiere that with a bunch of our investors from round one will get to join us. And then our whole crew, as many as can make it, will be there. So that's coming up.
Hey, are we going to wear tuxes? Are we going to wear a tux?
You know, you and I have to decide the dress code.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to be one of those guys in a tux. I don't know. Maybe. My wife is here. Do you want to wear one of those long dresses?
Yes.
Okay, she does. Tuxes and dresses.
She's like, am I getting a dress? Because I got to start now. So
I could dress like Don Johnson, Miami Vice.
You could do the Vice thing.
Yeah. T-shirt with a jacket.
Yeah. So if you're one of our investors who that was one of our perks from this round one of season one, you'll be getting something in the mail from us. So keep an eye out. Very fun. All right, some other updates around the world. We are live with a second funding round. We did one round of funding last year, and you guys set all these records for the largest kids and family crowdfunded series in the U.S., and we're so excited. So we've opened another round, and this is to help us get into season 2. So some of you may remember, Andrew, I've had these around for a while, but when we first started this journey a year ago, I held up these cards, and this was like the episodes. This is our work from the writer's room, and this is each episode in cards, right? And so right here next to me, Andrew, are all the same cards from season 2, 201 right there, right? And there's 201, 202. If you guys have read any of the Wingfeather Saga out of the book series here, you know that when you get into that second book, stuff starts going down. It gets like so action-packed. And so on Monday, we got to launch our episode director into episode 1 of season 2. And I'm sure you all can imagine what's going to occur there, but there are events involving a rock roach. So I know we're all excited about season 1, and we certainly are, but the way that it works in animation production is it's a long train. And so we've got all these animators and our assembly finishing guys are working. And so we got to get underneath that with our pre-production for season 2 so that we can bring it to you in a reasonable amount of time. And so we've opened a funding round. This is to help for those of you that want to become investors and be an owner of our company. So not just season 2, you're actually the whole series. You're a part of the anime series. That's what is open right now. And to tell you more about it, we have a fun pitch video that we want to show you that explains the whole process. So we'll show you this.
You know the worst thing about The Incredibles 2? Waiting 14 years after the first one. You know the worst thing about Top Gun Maverick? Waiting 30-some-odd years after the first one. But with the Wingfeather Saga, this shall not pass! The Wingfeather Saga team has already written the scripts for Season 2, and Season 1 isn't even out yet. We're not stopping this train. We've got 7 seasons to make, baby! Woohoo! Wingfeather tells the story of a family who grows stronger when they unite their efforts against evil. Hollywood rejected Wingfeather like my body rejects Tex-Mex. But 8,000 families made our Wingfeather series happen anyway, and you made it the #1 crowdfunded kids and family series of all time.
And yeah, I changed my accent. Get over it.
And now we need your help to fund Season 2 and beyond.
The Wingfeather Saga is epic like Lord of the Rings, witty like The Princess Bride,
and full of truth like the Chronicles of Narnia. And thanks to funding from people like you, we were able to hire a team of over 70 incredible artists with experience at studios like DreamWorks, Pixar, Valve, and others to join executive producer J. Chris Wall.
Hey, who worked on the global hit VeggieTales for over a decade and was a producer at DreamWorks Animation. Andrew Peterson is the other executive producer. He wrote the book, so we were like, I guess you can be involved.
Thanks for inviting me. Not only did I write the books, but I've been involved in the show's writing and in the animation process just to make sure that the magic that is in the books makes its way onto your family's screens. Oh, I think I lost somebody there.
So if you want to help create a TV series that shows families are stronger together rather than apart, invest in the Wingfeather Saga today.
Investing in the Wingfeather Saga means you'll be getting in incredibly early on what could be the next smash hit fantasy series. Imagine investing in Harry Potter before the movies came out. And the toys and the costumes and the video games, the theme parks, and oh my goodness, that's a lot of money. We hope Wingfeather goes global, and if it does, there may never be another chance to invest again. Season 2 is where the world of Wingfeather really takes off. Plus, the books have over 15,000 reviews, with an average of 4.8 stars.
Here are just some of the thousands of 5-star reviews of the Wingfeather Saga.
Book 2 really grabbed me into wanting to read more. Andrew Peterson has mastered the combination of humor, suspense, and depth of meaning. Each book kept getting better until its powerful conclusion. That's why we want to bring you Season 2 as quickly as possible.
Now, this isn't some amateur Kickstarter by a bunch of hipsters.
We've partnered with Angel Studios, who has helped filmmakers crowdfund over $30 million. And investing in Wingfeather through the Angel funding platform is unique, because audiences become owners of the show and share in the profits.
So if you want an epic TV series without disrobed damsels and dismembered dudes, invest in the Wingfeather Saga today. As with any investment, you should only invest as much as you're willing to lose. The phrase family friendly usually means content that is friendly for kids and stupid for adults. But not anymore.
There once was a show of fantasy, an epic show for the family, a TV series kids enjoy that won't drive parents insane. Invest now in Wingfeather, your family will thank you forever. And the show's really clever, you can watch the short film now. Now click on the link and help us to create Wingfeather Season 2. We just can't make it without you, so let's get started now. Na 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 da 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 da.
There you go. So that's our friend Chris Robin Miller, who is also the voice of Commander Norm, who the Gear team at Harmon Brothers agency helped us produce that. And yeah, it tells you a bit about what we're doing. So season 2, second round is out there. You're like, wait, how are you funding when you haven't released season 1? Well, again, we don't want you to have to wait. Others may do the end-to-end thing, but that can mean up to 2 years between season 1 and season 2. We'd like to have season 2 available for you next fall of next year, so that within a year of watching season 1, we can have that out. So that's the plan. We've got 7 episodes, 6 episodes season 1, season 2 is 7. And so, yeah, so if you want to do that, go check it out. Go to angel.com/wingfeather, and you can learn more about it if you want to join in and be a part of it. If you don't know, we also have some really cool merch. So if you love our show and you want to support the show, we made some t-shirts, and they're super cool. So we have our Lily and the dragon on the cliff there. My favorite, which just is fantastic, is our Toothy Cow one. Beware the Toothy Cows. And these are super cool. And then our last one is this really cool tree one, which I think this is the one you have, right, Andrew? Kids.
I don't have any of them yet, man. I know it's lame of me. I should have ordered them. Even I have to order the shirts, man.
I know.
But no, yeah. The other thing, awkward thing is, it's really weird for me to wear my own merch. It's like, I don't know. Do I want to be the guy that's wearing the shirt of my own books? So, but man, they are very cool.
They'd find the irony of that. The guy that invented these.
I could wear them as undershirts. Can we make undershirts that I can wear underneath so I can just feel the power?
You should. All right. Well, so anyways, those are out there, and every time you buy a shirt, y'all, you're helping support the show. We're a community-supported show. Yep. It's like public radio up in here, and y'all can do that with us. It'd be pretty cool. You know, one of the things in that video, Andrew, is it showed our team in Czech Republic. So we have artists all over the place. So we are not an outsourced studio. Everybody works for us. It's just the coolest thing. So we don't have some overseas production partner. It's actually just us, and we've been able to hire artists all over the United States and the world, including a really great crew based in Czech Republic and surrounding areas that we just love. And I got to spend some time with them. There's a cool video, again, on our YouTube channel about some of our time there. And we got more that's going to come from that experience. But yeah, I can't miss it. All right. We want to introduce a good friend of ours. The Wingfeather audience hasn't met yet. We are glad to have Jordan Harmon jumping on here. Jordan is the president of Angel Studios. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Jordan.
That video is so good. You guys work so well with Harmon Brothers, and man, I hadn't seen it. That was the first time I've seen that updated version, and it's so good.
It's so good, right?
So good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. We had this great interaction at the office there, y'all. We were sitting there, was it May? And had Shane, in the room. We were talking about some other stuff, and I said, "Oh yeah, hey Shane, can you make us a new version of that video for 20?" And he's like, tomorrow? Sure, just go, man. Great job. Hey, Jordan, it's good to have you. You have been a part of our journey for a while here, and obviously president of Angel Studios. And I know that you just got to watch the animatics, so not the full shows, but the animatics for season 1. Without spoiling anything, tell me, obviously Andrew and I, tell me more. What did you like? But tell us about what you thought of kind of getting to see season 1.
Well, at the start, I think talking to what you were talking about, where people are like, well, why are you opening another investment round when you haven't finished season 1? And I can, from having seen the animatics now and watching with my kids. So for the last 2 days, each night we've watched basically 3 episodes a night. And they would have done all of them in one night if we'd let them stay up until 9:30, 10. But my kids are younger. They were just enthralled. And it wasn't just them. I was enthralled. Like, I was right there with them watching this and experiencing this. And it was an incredible thing to see this story come to life on the screen the way you guys are doing it. And so without going into spoilers, having been in film and understanding how animation works, it is incredible what you guys have been able to do with the production budgets you've had. Like, I cannot speak enough to the production value that people are going to see on the screen. Every dollar is squeezed into that screen. And it's just so good. I mean, there's that scene with Tink where he's, well, I won't say what he's doing, but he's doing something amazing. And I was just like watching the animation. I'm like, how did you guys pull this off? This is incredible. But the story, the way you're telling it, it's not just this. This is really a co-viewing experience in such an incredible way. Like when you guys talk in that pitch video about him saying it's usually really good for kids and stupid for adults, right? That's not what this is, and that's what's exciting for me. Is I'm like, I texted Chris the night that I was watching, I think the second 3 episodes, and I said, "Man, season 2 cannot come soon enough."
When I read the book years ago, Andrew told me, he's like, "Hey, here's this book I wrote. You should read it. And don't worry, I made the chapters short so you can do them as a read aloud to your kids, and it doesn't go for." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." What he didn't tell me is that he also made the chapters cliffhangers. And so it finished, and the kids like, "Don't stop!" Like, "Good night."
Yes.
Yep. We read aloud a lot as a family, and I actually went through and broke up the chapters like that. The chapters were originally longer, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to chop this thing in half and make the kid want to. Because one of the greatest sounds in the world was when a kid says one more chapter. And I think that it sets it up well for the series to do the same thing. Like 28, 30 minutes is not enough. You want to keep going.
Yeah.
So, Jordan,
sure.
you just finished season 1. Obviously, we're cliffhanging season 1 into season 2. I mean, if you didn't get to see season 2, how would you feel about that?
Oh my goodness, that just can't happen. I mean, this is so. You've got something so special on your hands. And again, I want people to realize what I watch with my kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. All of them 100% engaged. Now, my 8-year-old's read the books. She loves them. But that being said, and we've read the books to our younger kids, the ones that have wanted to pay attention to that. But that being said, when you look at the story as a whole and what you're doing here, it's one of those things where this has to come to life. This has to hit the screen. This has to be shown to people because the messages, the values, every part about it is so heartwarming, so intense, so compelling in so many ways. And these are animatics. Like these are not, we're not watching with my kids. My 2-year-old is engaged. My 5-year-old's engaged with literally drawings and the voice actors, right? Yeah. And that's how well this is written. And so it's one thing to go, oh yeah, it's really, really cool. And me as the president of Angel Studios saying, yeah, you guys should all come support this because, you know, we want to get this to the world and be successful with it. But the reality is you can't fool kids. They're going to tell you and they're going to react the exact way they feel. And the fact that they were engaged sitting through drawings and voice actors for hours, they loved it. And this, we would be devastated if it closed out at season 1.
Well, we're so glad that you got the chance to see that. You know, our people at home are just anticipating. And here's the deal. We've been teasing them for so long. We had a really cool first look piece back in March where we got to show a little bit of this. And today, Jordan, I think we're ready. Andrew, I think we're ready to show them our first official teaser trailer. And it's been something we've been working on for a long time. And it's taken some really, really hard work from our crew to kind of pull some shots forward kind of grab them out of the assembly and some long nights. And but we are so excited about this. So let's count it down. We got one more here. This is the teaser trailer for season 1 of the Wingfeather Saga. In 3, 2, 1.
Come on, we're missing Dragon Day. Coming.
What are the rules when you're in town?
Stick together, be polite. When things are mad, stay out of sight.
We are truly indebted to our brave and magnanimous host.
Tink, you can't just run off.
Rumor is, Black Carriage took 3 children last month.
When you ran off, I had to leave Lily alone. Lily? Lily?
Peekaboo is a pluck of feathers.
Where'd she go?
Understand me, boy.
We have to get out of sight now.
That was incredible.
I'm so proud of our team. I get to watch it like you guys. I'm a fan. Just like, oh my gosh. There it is.
Yeah.
My heart
we got that. First night we got that, I watched it, I think, 15 times in a row. I couldn't stop watching. It was so good.
Well, that's what I was going to say. My heart, this is such a beautiful project, but I watch this and I think about you, Andrew, and the years, and Chris. And I'm just like, if I'm feeling this way, I can't even fathom how you guys are feeling. And so it's so beautiful to see your guys' hard work come to life in such a powerful way, and such a powerful story. So thank you, Andrew, for writing these books and taking that leap, because I think millions are going to be impacted by it.
Thank you so much,
Jordan,
man. Thank you for all.
We're so thankful for the partnership with Angel, for Neil and Jeff and just the whole team, just really helping us to get here. We couldn't do it without you. You guys have a really cool distribution model. So the crowd is going to get to see this. Our audience will get to see it in December 2nd. We just revealed that will be episode 1. And they'll get to see it for free. That's kind of the cool part of the model here, is that you guys get to go find it, watch the show, enjoy it. And then if you like it and want to support us, you can pay it forward. You could buy t-shirts I showed you a minute ago. You can be a part of it that way. And we're excited. It's going to be YouTube will probably be the first place a lot of people find it. And then we're going to start taking people over to the Angel Studios app, which is also free, but a place that you can watch our show and be a part. Jordan, talk a little bit about, kind of the disruptive model that Angel Studios has gotten into, because I think it's the thing that we got so excited about when we first met you.
Yeah, for sure. And to tell that story, I kind of want to take a step back and talk about The Chosen for just a minute. Because when we launched into The Chosen as our flagship series, we kind of went through traditional models of like a subscription model and regular rentals, VOD, and it wasn't growing like we needed it to. But the reviews were super good. Everybody was just raving about it that actually saw it, but the audience wasn't growing. And so we basically bet our entire company on this crazy idea, where we saw so many people commenting on social media saying, "I want to watch this, but I can't afford it," or they didn't want to take that financial plunge. And then we saw a ton of people that would reply to their comments and say, "Hey, DM me and I'll send you the DVDs, or I'll share it with you, pay for you to watch it." And that got us thinking, what if we can connect the people who want to watch it but can't afford it to the people who want to share it today without them ever meeting? And that's what birthed our entire model, where we launched this completely free model. We bet our entire company on it, and it was immediate. The moment we launched this new model, it was like 4x growth the first 24 hours, and 8x growth, and it was just over and over and over again. And what we realized, similar to how the gaming industry, if anybody's familiar with Fortnite, they launched a free video game that everybody said, "What? You're launching a free video game?" And then they created ways inside of the community that people can participate financially to help the game grow and be financially profitable. And that's what we're doing for the entertainment industry and the film industry. And so we're so excited about Wingfeather, because once people see the content, like when I watched even just the animatics, it's easy for me to go, I want to buy a t-shirt, I want to pay it forward, I want to push this because I want to see more seasons and I want this to spread throughout the world. And so it's a very, very exciting model, like you talked about, but it's a model where it's less of an extraction from the consumer, and it's more saying, if you love this, if you love what the creators are creating, support them. And so we're creating incredible, and we're just getting started. This is version 1. We have so many new ideas that we're in the process of developing that will help projects like Wingfeather becoming more and more successful. But we're really thrilled that the content that we're seeing come through our pipeline and what the crowd is crowdfunding and is just so compelling and so exciting.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jordan. And guys, if you want to be a part of our story in a real meaningful way, you can go invest in our company. We're selling shares. A second round is open right now. We're just going to be a limited round. We're going to close it pretty quickly, just to kind of get some funds for season 2 to get rolling. And then we're excited to bring you season 1 here. Like I said, December 2nd will be that premiere. Jordan, thanks for taking a couple minutes out of your day to come see us, and thank you for your support. It means a ton. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
Andrew, Chris, we appreciate you guys. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, man. So Wingfeather Saga, angel.com/Wingfeather if you want to be a part of it, our series that way. If you want to just be a fan and enjoy, please do. Don't feel any pressure, but we're super excited about that. All right, I'm going to turn our conversation. We have been asked, Andrew, by our fans a couple times to talk about adaptation in the process of taking stories and moving them, in this case, Wingfeather, from a book series into an animated series. And we have a mutual fantasy fan in Kyle Mann, and he's going to join us on the broadcast now. Kyle, are you there? He is. Maybe he is. There he is.
There he
is.
Hey,
Kyle.
What's up, fellas?
How are you, man?
Doing great, man. Just over here writing some satire, wearing my own merch, as Andrew said, it's very cringe. But here I am.
That's awesome, man.
It's all right.
Good to see you.
We'll give you a pass.
So, Kyle, you are most known, obviously, for your comedy and your biting satire, as it were. But we've heard over the past year from all of mutual friends that, hey, Kyle's actually a big fantasy nerd. What are some of your favorite fantasy stories?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a little basic in that, I read Lord of the Rings, and to me, that's such a standard, for fantasy. It was obviously foundational to modern fantasy. It was Tolkien, not just trying to tell a story or write a narrative, but to create a whole world. And so that became kind of the foundation for modern fantasy writers. There was fantasy before that. There was, like the Conan the Barbarian stories, and obviously there was like English epics and ancient Greek epics and all of that. But there wasn't anybody that was writing stories in these kind of fleshed out fantasy worlds until Tolkien came along. And it was only because he was this linguist and scholar, with a deep faith and a deep understanding of mythology across all kinds of different cultures, that he was able to create such a rich and believable world. And then when he put a story in there by creating these Hobbit characters that are so relatable, it was just magic, And so for me, Lord of the Rings is kind of the gold standard, where I read some modern fantasy and I'm like, why am I reading this? Why am I not just going back and rereading Lord of the Rings? So that's kind of, to me, that is like the standard. But I do love reading some modern fantasy as well as the stuff I mentioned, the pulp, the really pulpy fiction, stuff like that is a favorite as well.
So Andrew, you've just been at the C.S. Lewis convention over there, right? In Oxford, is that what you've been doing?
Yeah, it's the C.S. Lewis Foundation. They have this summer institute. Yeah, so it's like a week-long thing. I spoke at it a couple days ago, and it's really fun. Like to be in Oxford, where all those stories were born, is a pretty cool feeling, and the fact that Lewis and Tolkien found each other and became friends just feels, it's a surprising. And it feels like kind of like an ordained relationship, that both of those guys fed each other. And one of the things I love about C.S. Lewis is that he was the original Lord of the Rings fanboy, like Tolkien, like you were saying, he was the first one through the brush. He was nobody else was doing anything quite like he was doing it at the time. And honestly, he didn't think anybody would care. He was writing this huge story. And even his friends were kind of like, oh, man, are you going to read more about the Hobbits again, And C.S. Lewis, though, was the one who was like, please keep writing. Please keep telling this story. I've got to know what happens next. And so that friendship gave birth to this book that we all love, And I'm just like you. I read, try to read modern fantasy. I grew up, like when I was a kid in high school, I was reading the Belgariad and, the Prydain Chronicles and all like the more pulp fantasy stuff. And when I finally got to Lord of the Rings, I was kind of like, oh, this is what they were all copying. All those guys wanted to be this. And so that's what I feel when I read it now. Same thing. I'm like, man, nobody's quite come close. But there's some good stuff. You just got to hunt for it. There's a lot of not good stuff. But I'm always hoping to stumble on somebody who's the next Tolkien,
How do you guys feel like it works to try to in this intersection of faith and fantasy? Because I think that for me as a reader, and I'm not nearly as astute as you two, I'm just the blunt filmmaker over here trying to make video, animation stuff. But this intersection of faith and fantasy, I find really fascinating. And I told you my story of reading Terry Brooks as a kid and as a teenager, realizing that the worldview and ethics were changing and it was becoming darker, and it made me uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't think I should keep reading this. And then finding later, actually quite a bit later, finally reading Lord of the Rings and going, oh, this echoes my own kind of belief system, even though it's not a Christian story. What for you, Andrew, let's start with you, in the world of kind of faith and fantasy, was the inflection point for you to get into it?
Well, I just think, like, as a kid who grew up loving stories of all kinds, like I was a big comic book guy. I'm a child of the 80s, so I grew up with Spielberg movies deep in my DNA, and reading all this pulp fantasy stuff. All my friends were playing D&D. It was too much like math for me, so I never played it. But I was just deep in that culture, and so stories, for whatever reason, in a way that I didn't understand at the time, got my attention. Like I could feel my heart responding to a certain kind of story, and at the same time, I was growing up in church, and the two felt like two completely different worlds. There was all of this music and art and storytelling that I loved that seemed to stir my heart in a way that I didn't understand. And then over here there was church, and you know, in the culture that I was growing up in, there wasn't much overlap. There wasn't much language for the Bible as a story, or how the arts are an expression of what we believe. And so stumbling upon Lewis and Tolkien and George MacDonald and Walt Longren and Madeline L'Engle, and realizing that there's this really, like, some of the most robust and lasting works of fiction that the world has ever known were written by people who were people of faith, you know, who seem to tap into something deep, like the kind of subterranean level of what makes a story really work and resonate with people, you know. And so so that was the thing that piqued my interest, and I kind of was like, I want to see what happens if I try to dig deep enough to tap into that same well.
Wow. Kyle, tell me about your journey in this. I know this is a compelling area for you as well.
Yeah, with faith and fantasy and with faith and fiction, you know, there's different approaches. Like, you look at John Bunyan, you know, who wrote arguably the first English novel with The Pilgrim's Progress, and there's an element of fantasy. There's an element of this narrative and a hero's journey that Christian goes through. You know, there's a fight with a dragon and an all hope is lost moment, and a dark night of the soul, and a final victory. You know, there is that kind of classic epic hero's journey in something like Pilgrim's Progress, written in the 1600s. But, you know, obviously his approach is more like, this is a teaching tool to tell you how to live your Christian life. You know, so the fantasy is almost a secondary element. And then after Bunyan, you know, the people that followed in his footsteps, like Lewis and Chesterton and MacDonald and Tolkien, you know, there was this kind of second wave where they said, you know, maybe the art, like maybe the fantasy world is something that can be worshipful to God, even if it's not just, you know, a straight up, like, you know, you read Pilgrim's Progress, and he's like, he even straight up will tell you in the middle of the story, this guy represents an atheist, like, don't listen to him. He's got these little parentheticals in the text, you know, and you had these other guys that figured out you can do things that are a little less on the nose. And just by creating this world, we're reflecting our creator, you know, who created a world that reflects goodness and beauty and truth. And I think, you know, similar to what Andrew was saying, like, when I read these stories growing up, and I cut my teeth on Star Wars expanded universe novels, you know, when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and you're reading this stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's reflecting something that's true. You know, there's a good and an evil, light and a dark, and maybe it doesn't quite reflect my exact worldview, but you can see that they're pointing to something that's kind of eternal, that's pointing to a great story out there. And how good a story is really indicative of how much it reflects that truth. You know, and stories that don't reflect that truth are stories where you're going to be like, I didn't quite like that as much. And so I realized later on that, like, just by being a Christian and writing fantasy and enjoying fantasy, that can be an act of worship. You know, that act of creation, I think, is an act of worship.
I would also say in the same sentence that was Tolkien's whole theology revolved around that idea, was that that every human is made in the image of God, and one of the ways that we are like him is that we are little creators. That one of the highest things we can do is to build a world, you know. And so you know, he talked about how, like, the closest thing to it in our world is childbirth. that there, when a woman gives birth, she's giving birth to this whole galaxy, you know, a human being. But next to that, he argued that world building and storytelling was the closest thing to it, from what I remember. And so, yeah, there's a very theological thing that's happening every time somebody does this, whether they're a Christian or not, you know. And so yeah, fantasy seems to be especially well suited to tapping into, like, the deep layers of our imaginations as sub creators, you know. And, you know, thing I love about it too is like the difference between Bunyan and even George MacDonald, that you can, like, the way they were writing seemed to be in response to the way the culture, its willingness to listen to what Christianity even was, you know. So to the point where Lewis was kind of like, you know what, nobody's going to listen to me if we come out of the gate and say, you know, this is a story that reflects the truth. Instead, he's got to woo them. He's got to like make the story beautiful and allow and sneak past their watchful dragons, as he would have put it. Which isn't to say that we're writing just to we're like smuggling in propaganda. It's that stories are going to be doing that anyway. They're telling you something anyway. So certain kind of storytelling is a well-suited way to surprise someone with the truth.
Yeah, and that's been, Kyle, we talked about this the other day, but this has been the journey we've been on of trying to bring Wingfeather Saga to families, is that it is a story told by Christian storytellers, even though the story itself isn't overtly, Christian, right? That there's not a God character in it. There's not, some sort of allegory to the story. It is a fantasy story. And in the Christian market, that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Oh, there's magic elements, and I'm not certain what that story is trying to accomplish. And in the secular market but it's got this Christian thing happening. We're not sure what to do with that either. So we've found ourselves between. But I just find it so interesting that both of you have found some of this real connection in fantasy where faith is embedded in a real subversive way. And I'm just curious for both of you, why do you think there's not more? I mean, like Andrew, you said, it's harder to find, but I just find it really interesting that we have a lot of fans that talk about, I love Narnia, and now I love Wingfeather Saga as like a descendant of. Why the big gap? Why aren't there more in this space?
Yeah, I think I think Catholics have been better at it throughout the years, but Protestants we tend to take we tend to take art and we use art as a tool, So we want our movies to have a clear atheist villain and Christian hero, and then we want at the end there to be a big altar call, and you kind of like, you're going to accept Jesus now? Like, that's kind of we've always used art that way, whether that's movies or books or music. We need everything to be baptized because we don't have this robust theology of subcreation, or this robust theology of art as worship. We have this divide between the sacred and the secular, where what we do on Sunday mornings is worship, and then if we go read Harry Potter in our closet because we don't want anybody to know, then that's separate. That's not part of our worship, or that's not part of our that's not part of who we are as Christians. And so I think we've always seen these things as a tool. And we haven't really lifted up artists and creative voices in our churches to say, like, hey, you're creative. Like, go create a cool fantasy world. Like, go pursue that. Go write a novel because it's good. It's good for the world. It reflects God's glory. Same thing with musicians. And it's like, if you have a good musician in your church, it's like, oh, you can join the worship band and play, but we don't really want them like going off and creating these bands that aren't giving a very clear and on the nose Christian message. But I think stuff like the Wingfeather Saga, stuff like Narnia does give that message. And yeah, maybe it's not exactly on the nose. Well, I guess Narnia is a little on the nose because Aslan is Jesus or whatever. But but I think we want things to teach, and we don't see art as an end in itself that glorifies God.
Well, it also, one of the things that Catholics are, like you said, are good at is mystery. There's an appreciation for mystery. Flannery O'Connor, who's one of the great American writers, who is a devout Catholic. She taught, somebody asked her what one of her stories meant, and she was like, "Well, if I could tell you, I wouldn't have had to write the story. The story is what it means.
Yeah.
And she said something like, like my job is to be responsible with the gifts that I've been given to try to write the story as best as I can. And after that, it's none of my business what happens. Like, it's the Holy Spirit's business to do that work with the story in the person, as it goes out into the world." And I kind of love that. Like, make room for this thing to plant a tiny little seed in someone that could grow into something really beautiful, but we don't get to be in charge of that. The only thing we get to be in charge of is obedience. And in the case of artists, it's like, depending on your calling, you don't get to decide the ends. That's God's part, and our part is the means, which is tell the best story you can, write the best song you can. And if it ends up being a part of somebody's story of faith later, then awesome. But man, our temptation to try to control things is part of what leads to art that ends up being propaganda. Or people talk about there being an agenda and how the agenda makes for bad art. Well, man, Christians aren't the only ones who are doing that, and sometimes Christian art, quote unquote, can get a bad rap because, in the last 100 years or so much really propaganda type stuff has been put out. But man, Christians have no reason to hang their heads when it comes to art. If you look at the last 2,000 years, some of the greatest works of art ever were by people who were believers, who were trying to tell the story as best as they could. And so, anyway, I guess my point is, so with something like the Wingfeather Saga, Chris, you and I talked about this. You were like, at some point, somebody's going to ask, when is the big altar call moment in this story? And I was like, no, surely not. People are going to read this or see this. They're going to know what we're doing here. This is just a fantasy novel, And sure enough, early on, we got questions. People were wondering, like, at what point will the characters come to a saving faith in Christ or whatever? It was like, oh man, that's not what we're doing here. And at the same time, and I think that the way I like to articulate it, we've talked about this a lot, is a friend of mine actually here in the UK said, the stories aren't overtly Christian, they're deeply Christian. And I love that. I think that that's a better way to put it. It's like I'm not interested in being overt. I really just wanted to write a book series that would live on the shelf next to Harry Potter and would be enjoyable by someone whether they're a Christian or not, and leave that mystery up to God. Let him do the thing that he wants to do. And so, yeah. At the same time, I don't want to be shy away from the fact that I do actually believe that this is the truth.
Yeah, and so we're in the process of adapting that mystery onto the screen. And I think one of the challenges of adaptation is you go from a mysterious thing that you're reading, your imagination is like blooming out, and then that first image shows up. This was our experience, I'm sure, Kyle, for you too, when the Lord of the Rings movies came out. Whatever imagination you had for a Balrog, now you have that visual, right, that kind of makes it concrete. And how do you think in this adaptation process, and Andrew, I want to hear from you first, just kind of as you've been a part of season 1 here of Wingfeather Saga and adapting your written world and the specificity of it's going to sound like this, it's going to look like this, it's going to have a tempo like this. Like, how much do you feel that threatens the magic, or does it set up a new kind of magic? Like, what for you has been that experience so far?
I think that it's going to make for a new kind of magic. I think one of the things that convinced me the most that this was the right thing was when you told me, Chris, that in opening weekend of the Les Mis movie, remember when that came out, the one with Russell Crowe in it, whatever, and which I won't say anything good or bad about that, but more people saw Les Miserables, the story, in the opening weekend of the film than in all 30 years of the play's history combined. Like, all the people in all of the years and all of the touring. So film is just this massive megaphone in a bigger way than I think anybody really realizes. And so, I meet kids all the time who know Harry Potter but have never read the books, and it blows my mind. I just want to be like, oh man, books are so much better than the movies. Please go read the books. And so I feel like, as a lover of film, like I wanted to make movies since I was a kid. I was writing these books thinking, man, it would be cool one day to see this on screen in one way or another. And yeah, from the beginning, like before I even finished the series, I remember talking to you, Chris, about the possibility of adapting it. So to me, they live a lot in the same world. But the cool thing to me is that, like, being in the writer's room and watching all these amazing writers take the material that's in the books and reshape it into a visual art form, it feels like we're actually nudging the story closer to its purest form. It's like the book is one way to get at the elephant, and the novel or the TV show is another way to get at it. We're looking at the same thing from a different angle, and it's a giant pleasure to be in the room for that process.
Oh man, yeah, and it's been amazing to watch the story kind of find itself and get distilled down. Kyle, are there any adaptations of fantasy stories that you've been, as a consumer or whatever that you've been like, oh my gosh, they got it right, or maybe ones that you feel like really got it wrong?
Well, you need to look no further than Lord of the Rings for something where Peter Jackson was able to, because he wasn't perfect, like Legolas surfing on shields, and Faramir's character getting ruined, and there's a few things that makes you cringe when you read the books and you go back and you're like, no, you ruined it. But as a whole, the vision was like, we want to take the Tolkien books and we want to make, like Andrew was saying, just come at it from a different angle. We're going to use the visual medium, so you have to make some adjustments. You have to adapt certain things a different way. Tom Bombadil, maybe, as much as I love him, doesn't make sense in the film format. And then you need to, on the other side, you need to look no further than The Hobbit for something that, because the focus was different, it was, hey, let's take a book whose heart and spirit is like, this is a fun, short book you can read to your kids at bedtime, and let's turn it into a 3-movie, 10-hour epic action Marvel combat, trilogy. And that's kind of the thing that you look at and you go, why was it not good? Because it lost the heart and spirit of what made the book good. It's not like an adaptation has to nail absolutely every story beat that the book does, because like Andrew was saying, you're approaching from a different way. You're going to have story things that don't work on the screen, that work great on paper. But you have to be able to preserve the heart of what that story is about. So I mean, I could go, I don't know, the recent Dune movie was great because it was very faithful. Not like the weird 80s movie, it was very faithful to Herbert's vision. So you can, the Harry Potter movies, they probably got less faithful as they went on, but they still preserved the heart of what the story was about. And so I think you can look at a lot of great fantasy. You can look at a lot of bad fantasy. That's because at some point, because they parted ways with what the author was trying to do. I think that's the biggest divide that I see between good and bad adaptations.
Yeah, that's true. And certainly part of our journey, people have heard this story before, but when in 2015, I sat down with Andrew here and said, hey, let's start working together on this. And the intention was for he and I to work together, because if I just optioned the book story and went to try to make a version of it, it would likely lose something. And I was just like, hey, if I can have the author in the room. So it's the coolest thing to have that in part of our adaptation, so the fans at home can know that Andrew's always there, right? So we have this question about a design of a character or a creature or a story beat, and how does this emotionally need to hit? And it can be a new story beat. It can be something that we haven't seen before, something fresh, but how do we make sure that it's, the right story beat? And Andrew's right there to have the author in the room to go, yeah, do it that way. That's great. Or no, it can't be like that. It's got to be this way. It's been amazing. So, hey, fans at home, if you have questions that you would like to ask Kyle, or you want to ask Andrew as we're chatting here, feel free to hit those in the comments and we'll try to answer a couple of these here as we're wrapping up. But I'm curious for you guys, as you think about, what you're engaging with in kind of what you're watching, where does an animated fantasy series sit? Is it there's some out there that we could all engage in and watch. I'm certainly excited about Rings of Power and live action. But, for fans at home, an animated fantasy series is kind of weird, right? It's kind of sitting in a space like Andrew and I talked about. We watched Avatar Airbender. That series was incredibly cool back in Nickelodeon day. But are there other co-viewing series like this that you guys have engaged in? Any that you would pull out and say, oh, yeah, here's something else that has been enjoyable?
Yeah, Avatar The Last Airbender comes to mind for sure, but yeah, I mean, I can think of animated. I can think of serious animated series that I enjoyed, but like Cowboy Bebop and Avatar and Batman the Animated Series. But it's hard to think of stuff recently that is that intersection of like family, fantasy.
Yeah, because like you're saying, Kyle, some of that ages up pretty fast, right? Like Bebop and others, where it's like it's adult stuff, or you get down to kid stuff that's just not very engaging. And I think it's an interesting, just in the market in general, like forget what we're intersecting as far as a more redemptive story. yeah, I'm excited to be in the space, to be clear. But did you guys watch any of Dragon Prince? That was one that we tried to get into because, of course, a couple guys from Avatar had worked on it. It didn't quite catch us. It was not the right vibe. But
we watched one episode. I think we didn't get. I've heard good things, but we watched an episode or two and stopped watching.
Yeah, we loved Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall is really wonderful. Have you seen that, Kyle?
No, I haven't.
It's so good. You got to watch it. It's 6 episodes, something like that. It's so good and beautiful and spooky. It's like a perfect thing to watch in October. But the other than that, there isn't a ton in this space, and that that's one of the things we've talked about. Like I remember the Star Wars movie, the original trilogy. It felt like one of the first things I ever got to watch with my dad. Like my mom and dad took us kids to see Empire Strikes Back when I was 10, and it was like we all enjoyed it together equally. And I think the Marvel movies do that, and some of them do these days. But like as far as animation goes, it's really hard to find it. And as a fan of animation, I felt like this was a cool opportunity for us to do something that would feel the way that Star Wars felt, or would feel like. I love what we were talking about earlier with Jordan about, like, where is the show that the dad can sit next to his kid, and the dad's as excited about the next episode coming out as the kid is, And some of the Disney Plus stuff, Mandalorian was a little bit of that. But I still feel like we're threading a different needle than all of those things, and I'm very excited.
It's an interesting question, Andrew, as you say it that way, because why did we go animation? I'm curious what your answer versus making it live action.
Wow. Well, live action, to me, unless you had a Peter Jackson budget, chances are it would not work. Like to make it feel as epic and big, and make the monsters and how do you make a Fang in a live action world not feel hokey? Whereas with fantasy, what I love about it, especially the approach we've taken, is we've not tried to create a hyper realistic world like a Pixar movie. We're trying to make something that's suggestive and a little bit handcrafted, so that there's not that weird divide. What is that? There's a name for it. Aiden was talking about, like the something that happens in your mind when you see something that I can't remember it. I wish I could. Maybe that's it. The Uncanny Valley, where it's like your mind knows when you're seeing something that it's fake, right? But if it's all animated, your mind doesn't have to make that leap. It just accepts the whole thing as this is the world that we're in. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that the right?
It is. And Polar Express kind of got in that space, right? Where it's like, I don't know where to go with this, because it's moving like a person would move, but that face is dead as a doornail, and your brain can't process where to put it, and Keith talks about our animation super, Kyle. He talks a lot about cohesive abstractionism. So in other words, where you're abstract, but you're cohesive in what you do abstract. We think about like The Good Dinosaur from Pixar was like one that our brains broke, where it's like this very photoreal world and then this bright green dinosaur. And your brain doesn't know how to process that, right? It's like, wait, do they live together? And in ours, we tried to accept a level of abstract, right, in the visuals, where it's got this handcrafted, painted across everything, right? And that affects how the characters move, how we animate, and that sort of thing. I think that does do something in our brains to try to accept that it's a real space. Mm-hmm. So I think we might have a couple questions from our fans, a couple people chiming in here and there. Anything that you guys have for Kyle or Andrew? Any advice for young artists wondering how to get their foot in the door and start sharing what they do with the world? Oh, man. Kyle, you want to take a shot at that? And then Andrew?
Yeah, well, do what I did and just write some headlines for a Christian satire site, and you'll get hired on the first day. No, but it doesn't work for everybody. But I think that young creatives need to create, and I know that sounds stupid, but everything you do is going to be a preparation for the next thing you do. I look back at years of I was in construction sales before I started doing what I do. And now I have a published novel and 6 published books, and and writing satire every day. So it wasn't yes, I did have a big breakthrough moment, but leading up to that, it was writing constantly. I have a drawer full of half-finished novels that maybe will never see the light of day. I have tons of old like video game reviews that I wrote for free for blogs, and that I think you just need to keep. I think you need to keep creating. I think you need to write every day, and I think you need to do it, especially do it when the mood strikes you, and do it especially when the mood doesn't strike you, because as you keep putting yourself out there, you're gonna find that moment. You're gonna find that lightning in a bottle moment, but it's not gonna come if you don't put in the work on it.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, how about you?
I got nothing to add to that. That's all good advice.
Yeah, just go create, people, man. That's a great one. Question for the panel. What are the other covertly Christian books that you see as good candidates for an animated series? Says, Eddie, Ifa.
What's up, Eddie?
Any others?
Well, I mean, everybody loves the Green Ember books.
Right.
I know Eddie makes some cool merch that goes with it, with the Green Ember books. But Sam Smith's a good buddy of mine, and he's doing a lot of people out there have resonated with those stories. My brother's The Fiddler's Gun books would make great movies, I really think. He wrote a Revolutionary War era pirate story that is just fantastic. I honestly like Kate DiCamillo. I don't know exactly where she's coming from a faith standpoint, but I think she's writing some of the best books out there, and any number of her books. Some of them have been adapted, but that's the first stuff that pops into my mind. Yeah.
Val, anything for you?
I want to see Jonathan Edwards' Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God done as a family animated series.
Oh gosh. I would say too, like this isn't strictly animation, but my buddy Joe Sutphin, who illustrated the Wingfeather books, his Little Pilgrim's Progress. Have you seen that by chance? It is one of the most beautiful books you will ever hold in your hands. And he's currently adapting Watership Down into a graphic novel, which, man, they actually made a Watership Down, Netflix did an animated version, and it wasn't perfect at all, but I'm not sad that I watched it. I wish, there were some things that I wish they had changed about it, but it's not a whole lot of stuff makes a lot of sense for animation, but.
Yep. I have a couple for me. Andrew, you and I have talked about this, but I have a deep love of Stephen Lawhead, and I would love to see what he's done, like his Robin Hood series. I think brought into and he's writing from a Christian worldview, and so his stories, while robust and are for me some of my favorites. But it's a good question. Cool. Thanks, Eddie. All right, any other questions out here, and we're about to wrap up here. Andrew. Oh, this is a fun setup. What's a good reference for viewing the creative process as worship?
When you say good reference, do you mean like what some reading I can refer you to? Is that what that means?
Maybe some reading, perhaps something you've written that I might have on the shelf over here we could grab.
Well, I would say Madeleine L'Engle's Walking on Water is the best book out there on the subject. So, yeah, I would say start there. And if after you read
and then
that,
Andrew's book, Adorning the Dark.
You could read Adorning the Dark, but don't read it until you've read Madeleine L'Engle. Yeah.
Okay, start Madame L'Engle. Yeah, sure. Adorning the Dark. I know, Kyle, you said you've read that as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great reference. Yeah, I don't know if he's talking about a book or a scripture reference, but definitely. I think as you read the scripture, you can see God's creative. You can see God's creative force and creative hand throughout, and of course you can look at someone like David who wrote most of the Psalms.
That's right.
As being a great example.
That's awesome. Well, Kyle, thanks for joining us today, man. It's good to sit and talk fantasy with you and have a little roundtable across Southern California, Nashville, and the UK. We're just literally from Oxford to Southern Cal. That's what we're doing today. But man, it's good to chat with you, and thanks for dropping by and hanging out with us for a little bit.
Thank you guys. Best of luck on Wingfeather Saga. It looks awesome, and I encourage all the Babylon Bee fans and followers, anybody watching this, to go support. I mean, I think this thing's going to be huge. So I love the fantasy style. I love the animation style, it's perfect for the book series, and it's totally unique. So I love it.
Thanks
Kyle.
man. That's awesome.
Appreciate this.
Appreciate. We'll see you. Oh man. Well, AP, we are counting it down. You're right. It's August. December 2nd can't come soon enough. Episode 1 will show up. So, okay. So I've already had questions via text from others, but when do we get to see that trailer again? Because it was so cool, and it's going to go out. It's going to go live. We'll see a countdown there on YouTube. It will release tomorrow afternoon. We wanted to premiere it here first, let you guys see it, and so proud of our team and all the hard work. More to come. And like I said at the beginning, we are in the middle of a second round of funding. So if you want to join us and become an owner in our company, buy shares in it, that's awesome. We'd love to have that. You can head over to angel.com/wingfeather to learn more about that. And that's fantastic. If you just want to watch the series, hang on, it's coming. We've got, our team is just working so hard at it. And yeah, so proud of them. Hey, listen, one of the things that you can do right now is if you're not on our email list and you want to be, just kind of hear about the series. We don't spam it. Trust me, we just use this to help communicate about the series. Go to wingfeathersaga.com and you'll get a pop-up, and it'll ask you if you want to submit your email and keep up with us. And we just send out news once in a while about what's going on with the series and when it's going to be out there in the world. So if you want that, go do that. Also, because like I said, we're going to be premiering the show on YouTube and then on Angel Studios app. The best place to get the most current stuff from us is out there on our YouTube channel. So just go look for youtube.com. It's weird, /C. I don't know why Andrew does that, but it's just there. And then the Wingfeather Saga. Or you can just go search Wingfeather Saga and find it. But go hit the subscribe button, notifications, all that business. And that's where we'll have a lot of that content. Of course, our socials, Facebook, Instagram, are a lot of good stuff out there too. Yeah, and we've got a lot more to show you, lots more content. We'll do more live streams coming up in the next couple weeks on with some other special guests. So Andrew, anything parting thoughts for you from today?
Well, I mean, do we need to talk at all about like where we're at with the fundraise?
Oh yeah, we should look at it. Let's see. Esther, can you help us with that? Let's see.
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
Wow, we're moving along. So it opened up last night at 7:30, I think is when it officially went live. And here we go, just moving right along. Wow, that's fantastic. So people have asked me, wait a minute, it was $5 million. How come it's only $500,000 for season 2? Well, okay. So we're only going to raise part of the funds we need just for pre-production so we can get season 2 running, keep our crew moving through the winter. And so we're not necessarily going out for the full $5 million this time. We're only allowed to raise $5 million every 12 months if we want to, and get investors in our company. And so at the moment, we're just setting some milestones for what we need as a minimum. And it looks like we're going to get there very quickly, Andrew. So that's exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Lots to be excited about. Good to see you, Andrew. And thanks everybody for tuning in today. And we'll see you again real soon. Take care.